va a llegar el gol del Arsenal. Ozil marca Mesut Ozil.
That is some absolutely world-class sitting down there, staying at home, just sitting down. Oh, look, there he goes. He's eating his fourth sandwich of the day. This is remarkable.
This is Arsecast Extra.
Hello and welcome to a brand new Arsecast Extra. Oh, it's getting to me. An Arsecast Extra, as always, with... Who are you again?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
What's funny is that normally if that happened, we would go over that. But after last week and this week, it feels like the faulty intro might become a kind of format point of the Arsecast Extra going forward.
Wow, we could get new and creative ideas going on. How am I going to fuck up saying the words Arsecast Extra or James from Gunnerblog? I don't know.
It's good to blow the explicit rating in the first 3 seconds of the podcast.
Well, that's
that
it.
is good.
Start as you mean to go on, as they say.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It's another week. And here we are. Fine. Everything's okay. Had a quiet weekend, as you might imagine. Didn't do any disco dancing or anything like that.
In many ways, we were perfectly set up for lockdown, weren't we? Because we've always done this remotely.
Yeah, that's true. You hear some podcasts now are struggling to sort of get people in the studio and what have you. And this is like water off a duck's back for us in podcast terms anyway, not so much the isolation and everything else.
In the grim, dark future, there will only be podcasts. It's the time. Radio. Are people listening to the radio again? I imagine they might be.
People always listen to the radio, I think. Although
I'm listening to the radio more.
Yeah, I kind of have to turn it off because they keep putting the news on, and the news is just profoundly depressing all the time.
Yeah,
It's sort of surreal in the background, so you don't get to hear the voices you don't want to hear or hear the statistics and stuff like that. So yeah, podcasts, that's the way forward. I see Arsenal have launched a new podcast.
Somebody asked us about that, and do we fear for our future in the light of the Arsenal podcast? I mean, do you want to answer that?
No, I don't. I mean, look, nobody's got anything to do, so there's loads of time to listen to podcasts, and our friends at the Tuesday Club are back tomorrow as well. For those of you who haven't heard, So, they're back tomorrow, and you can keep an eye on the timeline of Alan Davies or Tayo Papula. If you check their timelines out on Twitter, you get all the links you need for a brand new episode of the Tuesday Club tomorrow. No, I've got no problem with it at all. The more the merrier. The more choice there is for people out there, the better. And if nothing else, James, it will drive us on to be even more explicit at the start of podcasts that we fuck up than we already are.
Yes, although I noticed their guest this week is Wojciech Szczesny, so maybe he beat us to it. You never know with Szczesny. He's a live wire.
Yeah. Hello, Wojciech. How are you? Fuck off. Fuck Spurs or something like that. That would be a good way of starting.
I'm sure that will be a good listen. I mean, he's a very entertaining guy. The players are back. Well, sort of back, aren't they, at training today? Yeah,
I think we had a question about that as well. Let me see if I can find it.
Seeing as people have sent these questions in, we probably should refer to them.
We should.
More specifically than me just casually referencing the idea there was a question about something.
Yeah, I thought I opened it, but it appears not to be there anymore. But it was basically something along the lines of, well, the players are back in training. Does that mean football can operate under different rules from everyone else?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I have to say, without wishing to go too current affairs and newsy on you, my observation of London this weekend is that London is kind of stealth reopening. A lot more places are open than were open a week ago, even though sort of nothing has really changed.
What kind of places are open that weren't open before? Because here, the only things that are open are petrol stations, supermarkets, off licenses, and maybe, some hardware shops and some takeaways, and that's it. So normal retail and what have you is not open.
Yeah, it was that way here for a long time. But I had to walk through Highbury yesterday. So, Upper Street that runs in Islington, it's got lots of shops and restaurants along it.
Yeah.
And many of the restaurants that didn't offer takeaway services have now kind of changed to offer one, including sort of allowing up to 3 people into the store at any time
to collect.
Yeah, and there were a couple of other. I think there were. I seem to think that there were sort of shops that didn't sell food. A couple doing that too. Now, of course, I get it. They, economically, this is disastrous for them, and they've got to find some way to stay in business. But it seems that it's interesting. And the Prime Minister of this country just came out this morning and said,
"Oh, he's alive, is he? Nobody's seen him for quite some time." Yeah,
he is alive, and he said that we are in a sort of paraphrasing here, but still a critical phase of this. But there has been a sort of I think a kind of unilateral relaxation of the guidelines, but without any kind of guidance on that.
Right.
That's my observation. I might be wrong. That's what I'm seeing in London. And I kind of feel, to an extent, like what's happening in sports slightly reflects that. Although, in fairness to Arsenal, they are operating pretty stringent guidelines, and they're certainly not operating in a way that would be compatible with a return to actually playing games.
Yeah, this is the guys doing individual training, isn't it? And sort of, using the pitches for their physical work and what have you. It's not like, full training again where all the chaps are together, and I think they're coming in rotas in various groups. I don't know how big or
groups
small.
Of 5,
Groups of 5, okay.
Yeah.
That seems strange. Why wouldn't you make it an even number? Why make it an odd number? That's
well, they're all working individually, so it doesn't make much difference anyway.
It does, just in my head.
Right, okay. So, yeah, they've got an hour-long time slot, and it's voluntary. They don't have to come. It's available to them. They don't, just like they don't have to take a pay cut. It is available to them.
Ah, okay. But they'll feel, no doubt, pressure from on high to come in and do the training if what we're reading between the lines is actually happening. We might touch on that in a while. But just sort of anecdotally, I agree with you in Dublin as well, particularly as the weather has improved a bit and there's some sunshine. More people are out and about than previously. I think it's just human nature, isn't it? There's only so long that you can stay indoors for if you're not actually being forced to stay indoors. Like in certain countries, it's much stricter in terms of, why you can go out and where you can go, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas I think here and there, they're urging people to stay home. It's not necessarily quite as hard as it is, let's say, in Italy or Spain.
It is really interesting because, when the lockdown started, there was a quote from Boris Johnson saying, it would take us 12 weeks to turn the tide against coronavirus. And some people thought that was quite ambitious at the time. And, I think there was generally a collective sense of, okay, 12 weeks, that sounds about right. But I think our tolerance for lockdown is lower than that. I mean, we're 4 or 5 weeks in now. And like I say, I think the cracks are beginning to show a little bit. And look, I'm not saying that to, I'm not ringing up authorities about this. I get it. We're all going a bit stir crazy, but it's just interesting sort of finding where those limits are. And it'll be interesting to see what the next phase of this looks like. Yes.
Yeah. I'm slightly worried about where it's going to go, to be honest. Because I don't know, it's sort of become this, I don't know, it's like waking up, right, in the morning and seeing a gigantic spaceship over your city. Did you ever see that TV series V back in the day? You were probably a bit young, actually, for it. So
Sorry.
This was in the 80s anyway. And V, all of a sudden, the world wakes up and there are spaceships in the sky above all the major cities in the world, and this seemingly friendly race of aliens is there. But, they're not that friendly.
Pull the other one, guys.
Yeah, we know. They're all lizardy, shape-shifting, baby-eating motherfuckers. But they come and they live among us and what have you. But, I'm just saying it will be like that. But the spaceship is there, and everyone tells you the spaceship is going to kill you or could kill you. The spaceship could kill you with its laser beams, whatever it is. But unless it does, or unless you've got some sort of personal experience of it or something like that, it becomes just this thing that's there. Well, there's the spaceship. And I think for a lot of people, the COVID-19 is this sort of abstract concept of a thing which hasn't really had any negative effect on their life beyond making them have to stay indoors, which is a pain in the hole, whereas for many people as well, of course, there is a very real impact on their lives in terms of whether it's business, but more importantly, health and people who have died and lost loved ones, and the impact that it has there, where it becomes very easy to understand why we're being asked to do that simple thing of stay indoors. But unless it's sort of touched your life, I guess it could be easy to get fatigued with it, if you like.
Yes, I think so. I saw a tweet in the week. It was from a Telegraph columnist. I'm just trying to find it now, saying that two of her friends have unilaterally decided they are leaving lockdown today. They are furious with the government. And someone said, that it's important to help them keep safe and protect the NHS. And the response was, they don't need to be kept safe. They're extremely healthy women in their 30s and 40s with no existing health problems. COVID poses no threat to them. And I was like, that's a crazy thing to say on so many levels.
Yeah.
Because, people of all ages and all kinds of health are dying. From this illness, but also because it's so much more than your own personal situation.
Well, exactly. It's not about them being kept safe. It's about your social responsibility. This is a woman called Alison Pearson, who.
Oh right, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and a few weeks previously was bemoaning people who weren't paying attention to the restrictions and the rules and what have you. So that great Stuart Lee bit where he's talking about Top Gear and Jeremy Clarkson and the controversial opinions that he has for money. I tell you what, if you're an opinion columnist and you're actually just writing what you think people want you to hear, or you're writing something to generate clicks or to sort of create controversy, you've no way of standing over what you write, because you can write something one week and a few weeks down the line you write something for the effect of it, and it's contradicting something you previously said. You've got no moral center, if you like, and that's clearly the case with that woman.
I actually hadn't come across her before. I had to, because her picture's quite badly pixelated. I thought at first it was a parody account. I was like, this can't be a real newspaper columnist, but of course it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, what all this means in terms of them being back in training and sport coming back, I don't know. The Bundesliga appears the furthest ahead at this time in terms of being close to matches taking place. It's still very difficult, I think, to quite foresee the mechanics of it in England. I have no indications of when it's going to happen.
No, I think Germany is obviously in a very different position from the UK in terms of the spread of the virus, the amount of people that have died, et cetera, et cetera. So it's sort of varying from country to country, isn't it, in terms of how they're viewing things. I saw something this morning, could be the Spanish health minister saying that, there's no way she can guarantee that football will be back during the summer. So I think on an individual country level, it's going to happen at different times, and countries are dealing with things in different ways. Like we saw the Eredivisie has declared the season void, which is interesting.
Using the current standings, I believe.
So no champion in this season. And, again, we're going over this because, we just don't know. But it seems as far away for me as it ever is, just based on the public health risk to players themselves and the people that are involved in the game, and the fact that you're going to have to get a lot of people together to make games happen, whether they happen behind closed doors or not. You've still got to get a lot of people in relatively close proximity.
I think Graham Potter, the Brighton manager, spoke about this over the weekend and said, I appreciate we're going to go behind closed doors because of fans in proximity to each other, but what about a penalty box on a corner?
Yeah.
The players' health and safety is of relevance too. And I get only with, incredibly adept and consistent testing could this happen, I guess.
Of course. But then there's the moral issue, isn't there, of whether tests of that magnitude being carried out on footballers is acceptable when there are people across the UK and across Europe and across the world who could much more, who need the tests, who require the tests, whose lives are just as important as footballers or anyone involved in the game. So, yeah, it's a weird, fucked up thing. So,
yeah, I mean, it is a very odd. It is a very odd thing. I mean, I guess they have to almost make a trade-off between, the public interest of having sport back and that meaning that the tests kind of have to go that way. I mean, the protest could be privately acquired, presumably.
Yeah, I think you can. And that would be something that clubs could obviously finance via the money that they've taken off the players from pay cuts and what have you. So I read the article that you were involved in on The Athletic over the
about
weekend.
The pay cuts.
About the pay cuts and stuff. And, it was you and a couple of other guys. I can't remember.
Stu James and Laurie Whitwell.
Right. And, it's fairly clear who wrote which bit from the article. But there's
all the spelling mistakes.
All the spelling mistakes,
the bad grammar.
Yeah. But leaving that aside, the sort of underlying impression that I got from your bits of the article, so to speak. I like the first line of it, by the way. Our group chat is shite, says the player at the other end of the phone. And I'm thinking, which Irishman is that they've spoken to?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a bit of a giveaway there, fellas. But the underlying impression I got from your bits and talking about the pay cuts at Arsenal in sort of broad terms was that there is a sense that this could be problematic, and that maybe certain elements of how this have gone down haven't really resonated with the players, or haven't gone down as well as you might hope with the players. And obviously, I want to think about this and Mikel Arteta doing his bit and leading by example and trying to maintain a measure of unity and harmony within the squad. But human nature being human nature, when you're dealing with 25, 27, 28 players, individual personalities, individual personal circumstances, people who might feel more disposed towards helping a football club than others because of either the way they've been treated or what their future might hold, the stage of their career that they're in. It does, from what you're saying, there's probably some work to be done when everything does get back to normal to not necessarily calm the waters, but just to make sure that the effects of this don't cause problems.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Arsenal are going to be the only club to suffer these problems, but because they've done this early and because they've done it in the way they've done it with cuts rather than deferrals, they are inevitably a pretty interesting case study. And I think there sort of has to be the caveat in this discussion that I think a certain proportion of fans are just going to think, well, kind of stuff what footballers think and say about this. And I have a measure of sympathy with that, in that they're going to be fine. That's the big caveat, right? They're going to be fine. But I do think that these pay cut conversations do things to a dressing room, do things to the dynamic between the players and the management. It's fascinating to think that, we're all aware at this point that Mesut Ozil has not currently consented to the agreement. He's not obliged to. So you can have a changing room where you've got, 10 of the 11 on the team who've taken 15% off their wages, and there's a guy who is earning more than them that hasn't taken a penny off. So there's that internal dynamic and what that could mean. But then I think probably more interesting and more relevant is how it makes the players feel about the guys in charge of the club, and how it might impact on things like forthcoming contract negotiations or, just players' degree of commitment to the club. I mean, when Ozil's sort of disinclination to agree to the cut at this point became public, as much as that was met with distaste by some sections of the fan base, I know that players, agents, families associated with players, felt quite positive that someone was, as they saw it, taking a bit of a stand in this instance. Because there is a feeling among Arsenal playing staff and the people around the playing staff that some of these players feel a bit coerced into making this agreement. That the introduction of the manager applied pressure. Because inevitably it does, right? If the manager can say as much as he wants, you do what you like, but, I think you should do this. Nobody wants to be the guy going against the new manager who they all admire and who's flavour of the month.
And who picks the team at the end of the day.
And who picks the team. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. And I guess in a way it's good that they're not all back in work together this Monday morning. Like, there's something to be said for, that dynamic kind of playing out a little bit in isolation and then, having to try and get the group coherent again. I'm not sure if you put, Raul Sanllehi, Mikel Arteta, all the playing staff, Josh in one room right now, I'm not sure how constructive that discussion would be.
Yeah, I mean, we had just on the contract renewal question, we did have a question here from Salt and Pepe. Oh, I like that. Nice. He's at George CHR14. He says, what do you make of Aubameyang's... Okay, here we go. What do you make of Aubameyang's dad's Instagram story basically urging him to sign, and then Aubameyang's story saying that he was working on it? Do you think there's still a chance that we should keep him, or should we just accept the fact that we move him or we lose him and move on? And there was one in the Discord as well, which was similar. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it, but it was to do with the contract situations regarding Aubameyang and Saka. But I can't. Oh, yeah, here it is. It was in the wrong. No, that's not it. I can't find it. Anyway, what do you think of Aubameyang's dad's Instagram? There's a fucking question I never thought I'd have to ask.
Believe it or not, I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
And, well, I thought I saw something from Aubameyang, but basically I think his dad, as the question goes...
You know what you have to do, bro, says Aubameyang.papa.
Aubameyang.papa.
I think, in fact, that's incorrect. So what Aubameyang.papa has done is shared someone else's story to his story. And the story that they've shared is from an account called About Arsenal. And they've said, you know what you have to do, bro? And they've tagged Aubameyang and his dad and his brother, right? He's just shared that. I'm not sure we can infer anything in particular from that, because it's sharing an image of him signing his Arsenal contract when he joined the club.
Right.
And I guess for them, that's still, he's just sharing that. He's like, yeah, we did that. But I don't think that means he's going to stay, does it?
I don't have a clue, because I don't know what the situation with contracts is going to be. I don't know that there's any way that, even if, let's say, football doesn't begin again until September, let's make that as a time for it to come back.
Okay,
completely arbitrary. It could come back sooner than that. you can't sort of put this period between March and September and just unilaterally add it on to players' contracts. I don't think there's any way you can do that, is there? Without the players agreeing to it. So the contract situations and the transfer market situation and everything else, I just don't have any clue what the implications of it are going to be for clubs. And I don't think we're really going to know until some stuff happens. And then we're going to say, well, this is the consequence. This is what COVID-19 has done to the transfer market, what it's done to contract situations, what it's done to players' desire to move or ability to move clubs. I just don't think we're going to know until it starts happening. And we'll go, oh, wow, okay. Well, this is new, or this is not what we were expecting, or whatever. So what the club under normal circumstances should be doing is completely different from what I guess they don't have a clue either, do they?
No.
I mean, you don't give Aubameyang, you don't say, here, Pierre, have a new 2-year extension to your contract, and
but you're only
here's a pay rise, but we don't have any idea when football is going to begin again.
No.
You just can't. So I think,
especially not at his point in his career.
Not at his point. I think you can, like we said last week, I think you can do it with Saka. Because
you can assume that at some point he will play for you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see he posted a video on Twitter of his season highlights?
I saw, a lot of people
have been asking if that means something.
What do you think it means? Do you think it means anything?
No. No, and I posted a little emoji of like a little signature, the padlock, a sort of optimistic.
Oh, is that what that was? I couldn't figure out what that was, but I
think a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Gunnerblog knows he's signing a new deal. I don't know that. I really don't. I think that could mean anything. I think it's as likely as anything that it's like, look how good at football my client is. Any European clubs?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
No, I think it's just content. I don't think it's associated with a new contract. But in his case, like you say, you can justify it more than with Aubameyang. I mean, Aubameyang's family, are heavily involved in his representation. They look after him, basically. His dad was a scout for many years and now works on the agent side too. So, what they say is relevant. I'm just not sure that sharing a fan's Instagram story celebrating the day he signed is really...
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to get any definitive information on this until someone who knows the sister of Aubameyang's agent makes a post on LinkedIn.
That's when things will really step up a notch.
Yeah, LinkedIn is where it all happens these days with contracts. So I mean, what do you reckon they're going to get up to in training? I mean, they could play 3 and in. They could do heads and volleys from distance. I mean, are there actually ball things that players could be doing? Someone, I sort of made a flippant remark on the blog yesterday about, you could do long passing drills and what have you. And someone on the Facebook, let me just see if I can get it up here. It's Trolls Henrik Balslev Krag. Who was talking about this. He said his Danish club, Silkeborg, had a talented young lad called Robert Skov. But apparently he's a free kick expert and used lots of time practicing free kicks on the training ground. I mean, could we come out of this with 8 or 9 set piece takers because all they've been able to do is hit the ball over some, one of their the wall of cones or the wall of dummies or what have you, and practice free kicks, banging them in the top corner like Beckham against Greece?
I mean, very possibly. They have been given balls to do ball work, but they're not on the same pitches, or certainly same halves of pitches. So, yeah, I guess long-range passing is possible, but then would the ball have a sort of contagion element to it if they share it? I don't know.
Well, you just take your own balls and your own half of the pitch and your own goal, and you stick the wall.
Oh, yeah, you can do that.
Do that, and then just bang them over. Don't even have a goalkeeper.
Hopefully, David Luiz is working on that free kick stuff,
I hope
because it's not borne much fruit yet.
No. It really hasn't, has it?
Has he even come close? I don't think so.
No. No. How many free kicks has David Luiz scored in his life?
Not too many. There was one in a World Cup, I think, and maybe that's distorted our perception of how good he might be, and maybe it's distorted his as well.
How many free kicks has David Luiz scored? Can Google tell us? Okay, hang on. Statsbunker.com.
It doesn't feel like it's playing the percentages, does it?
Goals from direct free kicks. He scored 2 for Chelsea from direct free kick. Oh, no, hang on. 4 for Chelsea from a direct free kick. For Benfica, none. For Brazil, 1 from a direct free kick. For PSG, 1. For Arsenal, none. So all time in his entire career. And how old is he now, David Luiz? 33?
33.
33. Yeah. The age of Jesus. And he scored 6 direct free kicks in his entire career.
I mean,
that's not great.
It's not incredible.
There's no reason
how many
why.
free kicks does anybody score? That's the thing. Like, who was good at free kicks for Arsenal? Van Persie.
Was he, though?
Was he good?
Was he good?
Well, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
He scored some spectacular ones, but Thierry Henry was good, but let's see.
Oh, yeah, that's good. How many free kicks did Thierry Henry score?
How many free kicks did Robin Van Persie?
12 free kicks in his Premier League career, Thierry Henry.
Why can't I find... why doesn't StatBunker give me Robin Van Persie? Let's see. Okay, all-time stats for Robin Van Persie. For Arsenal, 5 direct free kicks is all he scored.
I mean, he smashed them over the bar a lot as well.
8 in his entire career. That's not good.
It's not great, is it?
It's not great.
I'm looking now at the Premier League stats. Goals from free kicks. I mean, yeah. Zola and Henry scored 12 each. And they were pretty decent, right? Yeah,
they were pretty decent. But I'm looking at Lionel Messi, who scored 40, according to StatBunker anyway, 44 direct free kicks in his career. I feel like it's more because I thought I saw a video of like the 50 best Lionel Messi free kicks of all time. So that's quite a difference.
David Beckham is regarded as sort of the best we've had in the Premier League, I guess, and he scored 18.
That's not great, is it? I mean, it strikes me that there is room for somebody to become like really good at good. Yeah.
Is there anyone at Arsenal that we think has that capacity? Who are we looking at thinking?
Who am I looking at?
I mean, Lacazette scored 1.
1.
Aubameyang scored 1, didn't he, against Aston Villa?
That's right. I mean, it was a lovely goal to score.
Pepe is the guy we should be saying.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Pepe scored. How many has he scored this season?
He scored 2 in that one Europa League game.
Yeah, they were very good free kicks. So I think Pepe is the guy for sure. In terms of people who've got ability anyway from set pieces, Pepe strikes me as the most obvious one because his corner delivery is good. We've seen him score a couple of free kicks. So that what he should be doing is practicing free kicks all the time. All the time.
And doing whatever it takes to get David Luiz off them, if at all possible.
Yes.
I mean, it will be great when, the 1 in a million day where it flies in the top corner. That will be great, and we will promptly forget about all his horrific free kicks.
No, we won't.
I will, for sure.
You will. Well, look, maybe that's what they'll get up to because, there isn't a whole lot you can do when you're training away from everybody else. So, let me ask you this. What did you get up to at the weekend? What did you do to pass the time?
Crikey.
I mean, did you watch anything good?
Did I watch anything good? Don't think so. I did a lot of walking.
Right.
I did a lot of walking.
Just around your house or?
Around London, just to be outside but distant from people. I basically walked. And then on Sunday, I did some driving as well.
Right.
So mainly I've been sort of transporting myself around. I really didn't watch anything of note this weekend. I'm trying to even think. I did a lot of. I did 2 quizzes. The quizzes have become relentless. Have quizzes seeped their way into your life?
No.
I've
never ever used Zoom in my life.
How are you doing this?
It's
incredible.
Just not in, like, for what? I mean, I know people are having like parties and stuff, and like, you know, people are on tablets and laptops and they're sitting there having drinks together and doing quizzes and stuff. But I've never been on a Zoom call in my entire life, and I have no interest whatsoever in socializing, in inverted commas, in that way. So
sure. Well, my life is basically a Zoom call with the interruptions. There are so many people. This sounds like we're popular. We're not. It's just that once it's known that you're available on Zoom, oh man, the calendar fills in. I mean, fortunately, it's got to the point where I've been invited to so many different quizzes that I can now just, if I'm asked to supply any questions, I can recycle them. You know what I mean? I don't have to do any work at this point. I know all the answers.
Isn't the point of it? Isn't a quiz online in that way completely redundant, because you can just look up the answers? Or is it like first to press their buzzer gets to answer? Is that how it works, or what do you do?
I think it just operates on a sort of honesty policy. But you know, they're wrong to trust me.
I watched Godfather 2.
Oh, right.
And it's fucking great. It really is.
It's a good film.
It really is a brilliant film. And I was struck watching it how good Al Pacino was.
Ever?
Yeah, I think so. But Al Pacino was so good in that film, this sort of quiet menace that he has as Michael Corleone. And then you think of Al Pacino now, and you're wondering, how did you get from Michael Corleone in Godfather 2 to, like, even Heat? Have you seen Heat with Robert De Niro? I mean, this is when it started for Al Pacino, when he started doing this kind of stuff.
She got a great ass, and you got your head all the way up it.
He's like, what is going on?
She got a great ass. You got your head all the way up in it.
I think it's because you get so good, people stop telling you what to do. Do you know what I mean? No one wants to say, ow. You get too big. No one wants to say, ow.
Just dial it down.
Do you dial out a bit? Go on.
No, this is from a film called, I think it's The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Here he is.
He's a tight ass. He's a sadist. He's an absentee landlord. I'm a fan of man.
I mean,
wow.
It's just like this transformation from a really good actor into this gigantic screaming ham.
I think it's what happens when success goes too far, seriously. I mean, that sounded like... Do you remember was it Adam and Joe who used to play the Pierce Brosnan clip?
Yes.
Yeah, that sort of has echoes of that, doesn't it?
Does a bit, yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be living here anymore.
Shouldn't be living here, yeah. Brilliant. That is a brilliant one, but... Yeah.
But it is a shame because, like you say, Godfather 2, absolutely masterful.
Yeah. It's really brilliant, and I recommend watching it again.
It's like... It's like looking at Wenger's later teams versus, 98 and 2002. When people stop giving you,
100%.
criticism and stuff. Exactly. It all goes wrong.
It all does. Anyway, shall we leave? That's like, I'm going to use that and Mickey forever, I think.
Mickey. Okay, great. Soundboard.
Right. Let's take a break. Well, we'll do a clutch of questions in part 2, I think.
All right.
Yeah,
let's do that.
That's coming up right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer questions that you send to us on Twitter at Gunnerblog and at Arseblog on the Arseblog Facebook page, facebook.com/the Arseblog, and also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. We were just talking off mic about hammy acting, and James referenced the Pierce Brosnan bit, which was from a film called Taffin, I think. So yeah,
Someone bought me a DVD of Taffin once for my birthday.
Really? Are you still friends with that person?
Genuinely not.
There was a message there for sure.
Yeah.
So look up that clip on YouTube, but I also recommend the Nicolas Cage teaches the alphabet. If you put that in YouTube, Nicolas Cage teaches the alphabet, you will get Nicolas Cage just reciting
Fine
the
display
alphabet.
of
It's unbelievable.
Subtlety from Nicolas Cage.
A true master of the acting craft.
A craftsman at work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, with time off, James, you can look at these things and, when it all starts again, take them into your life as an actor.
While Pepe's doing his free kicks, I'll be learning to recite the alphabet in more exciting terms.
Just like Nick Cage.
Just like Nick Cage. Shall we crack into these questions?
Yes, let's.
I'll go first in that case.
Go on then.
Do Steve 1DA on Discord says, did you guys go to school with or were childhood friends of any footballers or anybody interesting? I went to high school with Brighton keeper Matty Ryan. And our topic of conversation, Arsenal, as we were both big fans. Thanks, guys.
Well, there you go. I mean, that guy didn't play against us like he was an Arsenal fan. Not that I'm questioning his professionalism and suggesting that he should, throw the ball into his own net, but, not to try that hard.
I think he's quite a good goalkeeper, Matt Ryan.
I think so,
actually.
yeah.
Did you go to school with any footballers?
No. I did not go to school with any footballers.
Were there any footballers who had ever gone to the school?
No. I mean, who went to my school that was in any way interesting? Maybe some Irish rugby internationals, but they're not at all interesting to me
Sure.
because I'm just not interested in rugby. Comedian Dave Allen. He went to my school. But before me, of course, a good few years.
I was going to say
before me.
He was born in 1936. So
same year as my dad. Yeah, no, we weren't. Even if he'd been held back a year or two, he would have escaped. He would have escaped. But he was brilliant. He was a really funny comedian, Irish comedian who had a TV show in the UK in the 70s and 80s. I did go to college with some people who are not footballers or anything, but are in the media here in Ireland. Because I did broadcasting and I did journalism, there were certain people who obviously ended up in that world. Who's the most famous of them? God. The guy who used to, he was head of sport for RTE. Right. And he was also the commentator for, again, rugby. He was the commentator on all the Irish games, a guy called Ryle Nugent. He was in my class in college. But I'm trying to think, was there anyone else? Not that I can recall. I mean, there were guys, like I said, there's guys who are working on the radio and in RTE and in newspapers and things like that, but wouldn't necessarily be household names.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What about you?
Well, I have got a bit of a weird story about this.
Okay.
So, I went to school. He was younger than me. I think he was in my brother's year, or maybe slightly below. He's 3 years younger than me, with a guy called Miles Anderson, right?
Right.
Now, Miles Anderson is the son of a football agent called Jerome Anderson.
Oh, he was...
I think he was Ian Wright's agent.
Yeah, was he Sol Campbell's agent for a while?
Very possibly, yeah. He represented a lot of players at Arsenal in the 90s, and I think he helped introduce sort of Bergkamp and Overmars to the Premier League. And so, yeah, I think he represented Ian Wright, Tony Adams. He was very close with David Dean, so he was a big part of the club. Anyway, I've got so there's a bit of sort of mythology around this, so I'll offer that sort of I'll offer that first because I might be getting things wrong here. This is not me at my journalistic finest. So basically, Jerome Anderson's son, Miles, played football at school. But if you believe the people who Miles was at school with, wasn't particularly good. Like, he was fine. Mm-hmm. He was quick and strong, but, like, not the best player in the school by any stretch.
Right.
Despite this, he has forged a professional career as a footballer. So...
Who does he play for?
So he first moved to Aberdeen... and then he went to Blackburn Rovers. Now, if I am correct, I seem to remember that from 2010, Jerome Anderson was heavily involved with the Venkies, who took over at Blackburn.
Were they the chicken people?
Yes. So here we go. It's actually on the Wikipedia. In March 2011, when it was announced that Anderson's 21-year-old footballer son, Miles, had signed a pre-contract agreement with Blackburn, sources close to the agent insisted he had no day-to-day involvement at the club. This has been heavily disputed by Rovers fans, who saw damning evidence of foul play.
Wow.
So there you go. Not my words, the words of Wikipedia.
Right.
Now, I actually slightly remember Miles, lovely guy. He's still playing. He, last we knew, was at Aldershot on loan from Hartlepool.
Right.
But, yeah, quite an extraordinary story of a guy who kind of somehow, God knows how, ended up in professional football.
It just shows that if you, work hard, keep your head down, and have a dad who is a powerful agent, anything can happen for you, I guess. That's I found an article here. Just was looking up Jerome Anderson and Arsenal players, and this is an article from 2005. It says, meanwhile, Edu's future looks to be decided next week as the midfielder decides whether to sign a deal at Highbury or be sold. The 26-year-old is still looking for more than the reported 5-year deal on offer of £30,000 a week, with Valencia and Barcelona said to be interested. Agent Jerome Anderson said, talks are ongoing with Arsenal, and I think a decision could be made next week.
Wow. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, like I say, he's a big figure in Arsenal history, really, Jerome Anderson. I mean, I suppose the Miles Anderson story, and look, he's been a professional footballer for more than 10 years now. He's got to have something about him. He wouldn't have survived, I guess, this long if he couldn't play. But, you and I have talked about kind of the influence agents can wield on football clubs. And I think sometimes that gets a bit poo-pooed or a bit dismissed. But, I think stories like this show that when it comes to transfer policy, they can have very, very powerful role.
Does Kia have any children, do we know, of footballing age?
I think he's got one.
Right.
I think he's called Cedric, actually. I'm not sure what became of him.
Nobody's heard from him. Nobody's seen him for months.
Yeah.
Right. Here is a question from the Discord from Gervinho's Forehead, who says, name the best non-European Arsenal 11 past or present, or past and present. He says, I would call it Work Permit FC. So we're going to have to build a team from players who are non-European.
That's fine. Unfortunately, I can only think of one non-European goalkeeper. And it's...
David Ospina?
David Ospina. The problem here is that Rami Shaban screwed us all over by declaring for Sweden when he was eligible for Egypt.
He was a Swede-Egyptian, that's right.
Is there anyone... Have we had a Russian keeper or... Is Russia in Europe? Sorry, that's a really stupid question, but... it is in football terms.
That's the thing, yeah.
Are we doing football regulations or
I guess
like
so.
EU?
Like UEFA? Do we use UEFA as the guideline?
Let's use UEFA. Yeah, it's a football question, so we use football's borders. Okay, I think we have to go Ospina. I fear.
I'm trying to think if we had anybody. I don't think we have. Don't think we
Right
have.
back, we can have Lauren, which is great.
That is a good one, yeah. Okay.
Even though he's sort of an inverted... I think he was born, or certainly grew up and was eligible for Spain, but chose Cameroon, of course, so... Centre halves. Well, David Luiz is an option. Kolo Touré.
Yeah, we got to have Colo. Colo's in there. I'm trying to think of who else. Who are the other non-European central defenders that we have had?
Not too many.
Not too many when you think back.
I think Kolo... Maybe we've got to go Luiz. Left back...
Juan.
Well, there's Juan. It's between Juan and Danny Carbassiun, isn't it?
Might have to fit Danny in midfield. So.
Well, there is Andre Santos, of course.
Juan it is. Even though
Okay.
I've got my Andre Santos shirt.
Okay, of course. So Juan, Luiz, Touré, Lauren. It's not too bad. Midfield, you've got to have Gilberto Silva.
Yeah, and look, obviously Edu is there as well. You could use Edu in a Gilberto and Edu as a midfield, Brazilian midfield.
It's not bad, is it?
It's not bad.
Alexis Sanchez has got to be involved.
Yeah, Sanchez on the left.
Well, all the right, depending on who else we can think of.
I
Abue on the right.
mean, we could.
Skipping ahead, Canu's going to be in up top, isn't he?
He has to be, yeah. Aubameyang.
Oh, well, hang on. Martinelli's got to be in too.
So we could have
We could have a front three of... Go on, you tell me.
Kanu, Aubameyang and Sanchez would be a pretty decent,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and then we could have Gilberto and Edu as our midfield, double pivot, if you like, and stick Martinelli in.
As a kind of pressing number 10.
Yeah, kind of a
I mean, it's
false
very
8.5
attacking, but,
10.
you know, Sanchez and Martinelli can rotate in and out of positions here.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty decent, actually.
Not bad. Not bad. Little.
I wonder who
flaky
we're
at the back.
forgetting. I wonder who everyone's going to tweet us about later, saying, I was screaming at my phone.
Yeah. Emi Martinez.
Emi Martinez, actually. Could have ousted the keeper, yeah.
I mean, I think I'm going to go with Emi Martinez.
Sure. Nelson Vivas, of course, we've left on the sidelines.
Of course. We have Julio Baptista.
Julio Baptista, yeah.
Can make the
don't mind
subs
that.
bench.
He'd be on the bench. Silvinho at left back.
Oh! Sorry, Juan.
That's who they were all shouting.
That's what they were doing, exactly.
The Wolf Boy himself.
Okay, that's not a bad team now at all.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot
it's
of
going to
Brazilians.
struggle for work permit regulations. Yeah, Brazilians. I mean, everyone loves. It's always exciting signing a Brazilian, isn't it? For
Yeah.
anyone who grew up watching World Cups and stuff, there is a real romance about it.
Sure. And look, you know, we can make up the subs bench from Junichi Inamoto.
Yes, Rio Miyachi.
That's right. Vladimir
we must have-
Petrovic.
Of course, Mohamed El Neni.
Of course.
I feel like we must have had more African players that I'm not thinking of. Arsene Wenger had a bit of a penchant, didn't he, for
What, Christopher Ray?
Christopher Ray, of course, yeah.
Um,
Do you want to know something that
Fabian
annoys me?
Caballero?
Fabian Caballero, who apparently is now known as Nestor Caballero. Like, I was Googling him the other day.
He rebranded, did he?
Yeah. Well, like Emi Martinez. I don't know if you remember, but for years he was Damian Martinez.
Yeah.
And then he became Emiliano Martinez.
Well, I think his name was Damian Emiliano, so he just sort of did the switch.
Well, I think the same with Nestor Fabian Caballero, apparently commonly referred to as Tyson. So
Right.
he wasn't known as Tyson when he played for Arsenal in 1998, that's for sure.
No. Quincy? Didn't he?
Quincy
didn't
played
he
for
represent-
Ghana,
For
correct,
Ghana.
yeah.
Danny Carbassian, of course. Who was the other?
Frankie Simek was
Yeah,
another
that's
American.
the other American. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we've done all right there, I think.
I think we've done okay. Joel Campbell, of course, from Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, Chu Young Park.
Um,
I think we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. now.
you mentioning Chris Ray just reminded me of something. Do you remember that George Ware came and played in the Premier League? It kind of annoys me that it wasn't at Arsenal.
Played for Man City, didn't he?
He played for Man City, but before that, he played for Chelsea as well, and he was on loan from AC Milan at Chelsea
The fuck?
in
I'd forgotten.
2011, I think.
Really?
No, 2000. Sorry. I was way out. I was a decade out. 2000, yeah. And he was pretty good for Chelsea. I think he played in an FA Cup final for Chelsea. Started a final which they won 1-0.
That's mad, isn't it? That's kind of mad when you think about stuff like that.
I mean, and he was so close with Wenger, you would have thought, like, of course, he would have loved to have worked with Wenger, but we, at that time...
2000, yeah, we'd some decent forwards.
Some decent forwards.
Wow,
Yeah.
I like this. I'm just looking at his Wikipedia. He played 11 games in all competitions for City, scoring 4 times before leaving in October 2000 after becoming dissatisfied with manager Joe Royle. I mean, that's fucking nuts. If you grew up on Italian football, watching Italian football on Channel 4, which was, for a time the only real live football we could get, and George Weah was just an astonishing player. The idea that he left Man City in 2000 because he didn't like Joe Royle is kind of bonkers. There must be a podcast in this, the Premier League's weirdest loan signings that people have forgotten. Like, I'd completely forgotten about George Weah.
I know. Incredible, eh?
I mean, it's not as weird as the guy who played for Southampton who told Graham Souness that he was George Weah's cousin. Ali Dye, yeah, which is one of the most remarkable football stories of all time.
At least Chris Ray was actually George Ware's cousin.
He was, and he scored a few good goals for us. He scored one against
FA Cup semi-final against Wolves, no?
And I do remember a belter of a goal, either Bolton, and he scored against Wimbledon. Was that in the game that had to be replayed because the floodlights failed? Do you remember that game?
Yes, I do remember the floodlights failing.
And was the game cancelled, or did it?
But wasn't that
kick
at
off again?
Wimbledon?
Yeah.
I think his goal was at Highbury against Wimbledon, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, no, you could be right. Wimbledon,
But I remember the
Arsenal.
game. It was on television. It was a Sky game.
Yeah, I remember going to the pub to watch it. It was abandoned after floodlight failure. But there were all these moments, or all these rumours going around that it was to do with betting syndicates and stuff like that.
It was December 1997.
God, that's a long time ago.
I know.
Jesus.
It was December 1997. The lights go out on Wimbledon again, was the headline in The Independent. Floodlights went out and an Asian betting syndicate was reportedly behind it.
Right.
They raked in a fortune on it.
Okay,
apparently.
well, good luck
to them. Does seem like a different time.
Yeah. Graham J. Hawke says, for undisclosed reasons, you're short of money and decide to rob a bank. You have to assemble a 5-man team of current Arsenal players to help you do it. You must explain why you chose each man and what their individual jobs would be. Think Ocean's 11, but better. And obviously, the first one that you're going to pick is Kolasinac from Muscle.
I mean, that is what I was thinking straight away.
Yeah.
Um,
Who else would you choose and why?
I'd have Aubameyang as my getaway driver because he's got the cars, right?
Yeah, and he'd keep the mood high. He'd be full of...
he'd be relaxed outside.
Yeah.
And
just
then
be
he's
laughing.
got the Ferrari or whatever you want to, fly off at speed.
Yeah, but you've got to get 5 people in this vehicle, so you're not getting 5 into like Aubameyang's chrome-plated Lamborghini.
One can sit on the top or something, I don't know. We'll figure it out. I think I'd obviously take Bernd Leno because crucially he's got gloves on, right? No fingerprints.
Oh yeah, smart.
So that's 3 of my Ocean's five-a-side.
Mm-hmm. Who else? I feel like you've got some speed.
I think I know actually. I think I know who my other two.
Okay, go on.
I'd take David Luiz and Guendouzi because I would use them to fool the CCTV cameras.
Like the what's that? What's the movie? It's another one with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, he steals a painting.
Yeah, steals the painting, and then everyone looks like the same guy in it. What's that called? They're shouting.
Remake.
They're shouting at it. They're shouting at us again. Should we look it up?
Taffin. It's called Taffin, I think.
Maybe you shouldn't be stealing the painting here.
Pierce Brosnan painting movie, The Thomas Crown Affair.
The Thomas Crown Affair. I was thinking The Talented Mr. Ripley. I knew it wasn't that because that's the film where Jude Law gets his head caved in with an oar.
Yeah. Have you watched that a lot just for that moment?
I just have that bit on repeat. Actually, that bit should be immediately followed by the coffin dancer guys. Have you seen that?
The coffin dancers.
The coffin dancer thing where something bad happens to someone and then they play this coffin dancing. It's quite funny. But there you go.
Yes, I saw the Andy Howe's John Terry remix of that.
Beautiful.
So there you go. They're my 5. I'm pretty happy with that as an answer.
I think that's a good 5. I don't think there's any need for me to pick another different 5, to be honest.
What about this? Christopher Smith. Back in the day, says Christopher Smith, I was a big admirer of Mark Overmars. I don't think he gets enough mentions and perhaps isn't remembered as much as some of his Arsenal peers. Were you fans, and can you think of anyone in football who has a better name?
Mark Overmars, who's got a better name than Mark Overmars?
It's a good name. I think a lot of commentators used to sort of accidentally call him Marco. I seem to remember him being referred to as Marco Overmars a bit. And I was like, that's not his name.
I remember that summer when we were signing him, I was working in the offices of Riverdance.
Right.
This is quite bizarre. It is quite bizarre.
How has it been however many 100 episodes before you've mentioned that?
Well, here's what sort of happened, right? I was, working, I was a DJ and I was doing radio stuff and I was doing nightclub stuff and what have you. And I got into this car accident and I was basically out of work for about 6 or 8 months because of my broken arm and the injuries and everything else. And my cousin worked for a company. They're a TV production company. That set this up initially, right? But Riverdance had just happened and it had become huge and they were touring around the world and stuff like that. And she got me a job in the office as a runner, basically, somebody who would go in and just do the post room and, we're having a lunch with 15 people, go out and get us 600 sandwiches and bring them in and that kind of shite, right? But I remember being in the offices that summer when we were pursuing Overmars, and I remember reading it in the newspaper there that we were about to sign him. And I really liked the idea of signing Mark Overmars because I remembered him from the World Cup or from watching, I don't know what. I really
good Ajax team,
really wanted us. Yeah, the Ajax team, of course. I really wanted us to sign Overmars. And we did. And it was great.
We did.
Lo and behold, we did. And he, I think what's maybe tarnishes his legacy a little bit is the way that he left, the final season. Himself and Emmanuel Petit weren't really at it. They weren't, maybe I'm misremembering, but it feels to me like they weren't properly committed. And Overmars was being linked with Barcelona, and we've been there, done that, worn the t-shirt, but that might have been the first time that we put that t-shirt on. But he was fucking brilliant. That first double season, he was just unbelievably good. He really sparked into life, didn't he? And
yeah,
some of the goals that he scored, it was just like, oh yes, give him the ball, just give him the ball down that left channel, and it's a goal. So yeah, I loved him as a player. Really, really loved him. But I think the way he left and how he left and everything else, even if it did get us a training ground or go some way to get us a training ground, and Thierry Henry and Nicolas Anelka and all that kind of stuff, we got big money for those two.
Yeah, I think it's the Anelka comparison is interesting because I think, like Overmars, he suffers from not being with. They both suffer from not being with the club an enormous length of time. Like, in Overmars' case, I think it was 97 to 2000, so 3 years. They both left in a sort of relatively on an unpleasant note. And also, they were both brilliantly replaced. And I think the degree to which you miss a player is quite associated with how effectively you replace them. Anelka went out, Thierry Henry came in. Overmars was, of course, replaced by Robert Pires. Yeah,
so that softened the blow for sure.
Enormously, So, and as brilliant as Overmars was, and he was sensational, I think Pires was probably better.
Yeah, I liked Pires a lot more.
But Overmars was kind of interesting because he was sort of... In those days, Arsenal played 4-4-2, but Overmars... he was not a conventional wide midfield player. He really was a third attacker in the way he played.
Yeah, it was sort of like a 4-3-1-2, or particularly with Bergkamp behind as well. Sort of the two ones behind a main striker. With the license to roam a bit.
It was a bit more the sort of modern wide forward that we.
It was like when you play Championship Manager or Football Manager, as it was back in the day, and you set your team up in a 4-4-2, but you'd put your left winger just a little bit forward with the arrow.
Sure. It was very much that. I think that's exactly what Arsene did. I think he did the little dotted arrow.
Yeah. Overmars had an arrow when he wrote out the team sheet. Mark, arrow.
And that was the 90s as well. That's just how sophisticated tactics were then. You just had a little arrow.
Yeah.
That's all you needed.
Yeah, exactly. That's the direction you go in.
He was a great player. And in fact, my greatest... one of my best memories of Mark Overmars is because he... initially retired in 2004 due to persistent knee injury, and 2 years later he came and played in Dennis Bergkamp's testimonial, the first game at the Emirates Stadium, and he was brilliant.
Right.
He was so good. He was one of the best players on the pitch, and there were people playing who were still playing, and it was clear he had so much ability. And lo and behold, 2 years later in 2008, he did actually do it again. I think he played in Jaap Stam's testimonial and was so good that he got invitations to have a contract in Holland and Germany and make a professional comeback. But I think he did come back because he was director at Go Ahead Eagles. And I think he ended up playing for them after they had an injury crisis.
Did he? Wow.
Yeah. And that was in 2008. So that was, 4 years after his retirement. He was 35 and he made a comeback for one season.
Wow.
So yeah, quite a cool story. Actually.
Yeah. He had a big injury. I think he did his cruciate, didn't he, before he joined us? And that was...
It was a risky signing.
Yeah, because cruciates back then, there was they could be career-ending.
Yes, there's a quote from Arsene Wenger after the FA Cup final in which Overmars scored, where he says, all Europe thought Overmars was dead because of his damaged knee. But he has great mental strength, etc., etc.
He's whether it's risk or whether it's an ability to see beyond what most people would consider too risky. But when you think about, the Kanu thing as well.
Yeah, that was just 18 months later. He went and got Kanu. There were a lot of gambles in that period. Thierry Henry, of course, had massive potential, but he was not in form, not necessarily a hot property at that point. Yeah, huge gambles that paid off in a big way in that late 90s. Mark Overmars was a really good player.
AFC Met says, do you miss football as much as you thought you would? And on the Discord, let me have a look here. We have one from Sam Kazmi.
Sam Kazmi.
Sam Kazmi. Sorry, my I copy and paste it into something and it's all a bit wonky. But he said, the longer this quarantine has continued, the more I've begun to realize I don't really need football, specifically watching football in my life. My love for other types of entertainment has only increased. I wonder what kind of entertainment that could be.
Great ass!
Anyway, he says... Not football. His love for other entertainment has increased, but not football. How do I come to terms with this feeling? P.S. I did enjoy watching your FIFA games.
Well, that's definitely not football.
No.
So that's okay. We were very much anti-football in the way that we played.
Sure.
I mean, in answer to AFC Met's question, how much do you miss football?
A lot. Yesterday morning, I was really missing it, just from the point of view of it's like having this massive part of your life just taken away and not replaced with anything other than worry and stress and anxiety and, there's sort of nothing there. So yes, I do miss it a lot, and I miss the normality or the sense of normality that it brought and the structure that it gave my life. But even just from the point of view of, it'd be great to just watch a game of football and then write about the game of football and talk about the game of football. And, people who listen to this podcast can hear very clearly that we don't necessarily need football to talk absolute bollocks for 60 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever it might be. We don't necessarily need it, but it would be fucking great to have it, So I am missing football. I'm missing it a lot, and I'm missing, the fact that if football exists, things in general are obviously better. So there's that part of it too. What about you?
Yeah, it's a complex one, actually. It's not as straightforward as I really miss it. I miss... Yesterday, I found myself really missing playing football. I don't play football that much, but, probably once a week. But I really do miss that.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too,
I miss, the sort of the community element of that as well, of course. I do miss watching the games. I love watching a game. I love the theatre of it. I love, it's great entertainment. I don't massively miss the schedule for me in terms of sort of being at games and having to be away from home now and again. Like, I like being at home, that suits me. And so in terms of like being able to be at home, hang out with my wife, feel like I've got a bit more time to breathe, I sort of appreciate that little respite. But, we would have had that in the summer anyway. So I kind of think, it's sort of like, it's the same, isn't it? When the Premier League season ends, there is always a little sort of brief moment of like, there's a bit of a relief for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, come on, when's the World Cup? Or whatever it is. And I think there is some of that. But I do wonder if there will be fans like Sam Kazmi whose relationship with the game changes. I think it's really different for everyone. I mean, my mum is not like a massive football fan, but she likes her football, and she's missing football so much. And she keeps saying to me that it provides her week with so much structure. Like, it is kind of her calendar in a weird way. And when you take that away, I think that's difficult. But I do wonder if there will be people whose relationship with it is just a little bit different after all this. I think that's inevitable, isn't it, given how seismic it is? Yeah,
it is, because, other things might be a priority, like, paying your mortgage or getting your business back up and running, and
absolutely,
things that you could do because, not that it was autopilot or whatever, but it was just so part of your day-to-day life. Maybe you've got to, do things differently, or you're going to have to work a different kind of a job or whatever it might be. Yeah, I think it is going to fundamentally alter people's relationship with the game, people's relationship with clubs. And I hope, that the clubs are smart enough to recognize the challenges that fans and supporters and even people who just have a passing interest in football are going to face. In we can say when football comes back, and then you think, well, in a couple of weeks when football comes back, it'll all be all right again. It's not going to be all right straight away, or it's going to take some time for us to rediscover what normal is, and what normal is afterwards is going to be different from what normal was before. And football clubs have to be aware of that. They have to be smart, and they have to recognize that they can't take people's support for granted. They shouldn't take people's support for granted, and they shouldn't look to exploit every single aspect of fandom for financial gain, which is, the reality that we existed in before, right?
It is.
Let me give you a good example. Football clubs that have betting partners should not have betting partners after this. They make enough money from all their other revenue streams, and we know that most people can just have a bet every now and again, and that's it. But there are people who, are badly affected by the non-stop barrage of, a football club or Ray Winston, bet on this football right now or else. I think there are certain aspects of the way football clubs are run that are going to have to change. Out of respect or consideration or whatever it might be for fans. I hope that's the case. So,
yeah, I mean, I've already seen a couple of Premier League clubs, I think, coming out and saying, we're pleased to confirm we will be freezing season ticket prices for next season. And I was like, yeah, you're telling me. I mean, that's the very least I think that Premier League clubs will need to do in order to fill those seats.
Yeah.
I think they might have to be a bit more creative than that, to be honest with you. Yeah,
I think you're right. I mean, we could see a completely different kind of either ticket environment or membership structures at clubs might become different in terms of, the way tickets are distributed and everything else. I think, it wouldn't surprise me if it was completely different. I don't quite know how, but...
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the sort of mythical waiting list at Arsenal is quite as long when the season rolls around. But yes. Shall we have another question?
Let's do another couple quickly and then we'll...
Okay. You said quickly. If you could choose... Oh, I like this. Leon Smith. Who's at Owen McFruity. If you could choose to sit anywhere at the Emirates apart from the bench, where would you choose?
Behind the NBC commentary position. Every single game.
Great.
Yeah, because it was great fun last time.
Yeah, I mean, my season ticket is in Block 6. I really like it there. It's got atmosphere and it's a very different football experience to, watching it on the telly. But I have to say, at Highbury... my seat was just behind the managerial dugout, and that was fascinating because you could hear some of the discussions, you could see the monitors that they could see and hear the conversation with the officials and know why they sent out which sub when. That was cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, the views generally within the Emirates are great wherever you are,
Very true, yeah.
But,
of course, the higher up you are, the clearer sort of tactical picture you get. I think there is a degree to which that's true.
Halfway line, front of the first tier or the top tier, second tier.
Yeah.
Isn't that where, I think that's where Tim Stillman sits.
Tim Stillman has an infamously brilliant seat. Yeah. Famously, rather.
Yeah.
Nothing infamous about it.
Yeah. The seat itself. Okay.
The seat is cursed.
The seat is cursed. Final one then. Let's do it. And this one comes from the Discord. And it's from Stickers, who says, what dystopian movie series do you think you'd survive best in? And which of the following will be closest to what real life has become in 6 months' time? A, The Hunger Games. B, Mad Max. C, World War Z / Zombieland. Which one would you do best in?
Mad Max, because I'm not a brilliant driver, and I think that fits in quite well with some of what goes on in that movie.
So you would be one of the guys hanging off the side of a truck with a big bat and nails in it and shit. I
think so, yeah. I have to say, I absolutely love Mad Max Fury Road, the most recent one of those films.
That's the one with
Charlize Theron.
And what's his face?
Yeah.
Mumbly Joe. What's his name? Yeah,
the man who
Joe.
was ahead of us all with the face mask.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. What's Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy, yeah. But it's a great movie, and I
like
wanted
it.
to recommend it to people. But I watched it in a cinema, and it feels like that might have been quite an important.
No, it is good.
I don't know.
It is good.
It's good. It's good on a telly as well. Is it?
It is good on a telly. I've never seen The Hunger Games, so
I haven't either, and I've been told I would like it. But
is this like a concept of where you have to like?
It's like gladiatorial, basically.
Yeah, so you got to stay alive by doing shit or on a TV show?
Fighting. I think you're put into some sort of, extreme version of TV's Gladiators, and and winner gets to live or something.
Okay, so contestants are pitted against each other until only one remains, kind of shit.
Sort of, yeah.
Right. No, I wouldn't be any good at that. I really wouldn't. World War Z, I haven't seen that, but that's the one with Brad Pitt and all the zombies, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
I believe so.
No.
I don't want to be near any zombies as well.
I definitely don't want to be near any zombies, but I think maybe Zombie Land, is that the one with Woody Harrelson?
I don't know.
Or is that... Yeah, hang on, let me see.
Remarkably, they've picked a number of films here that I just haven't seen. Zombieland.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson. It's more of a funny film.
Oh, okay. Maybe
I think I could probably go with that. Yeah, bit of comedy and whacking zombies. I think I could deal with that better. I could deal with that better than hordes and hordes and hordes of zombies like in World War Z.
That's just stressful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can't be doing that.
They move too fast. Fast. I don't feel like zombies should be able to move that fast because, they've got no blood going around them. Their muscles will surely be atrophying.
Well, isn't that what what's his name? Simon Pegg says. He's like,
in Shaun of the Dead.
Movies, yeah, certain zombie movies aren't zombie movies because they move fast. Like zombies by their nature have to move slowly.
Have to kind of lumber towards you.
It's sort of part of the fundamental premise. Yeah. I agree with that. I think lumbering zombies is the way to go.
Yeah.
Fast zombies is just cheating. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that thing they wanted us to do with the FIFA game. Turn everything up to 100 or whatever.
And we didn't know how to do it.
No, and I still don't. Shall
we finish with Al?
Shall we finish with Al? You can call me Al because, James, you've got...
Great ass!
Thank you.
And you got your hair all the way up it.
That's
wow.
Be...
What flexibility I've shown to do that.
Truly. The yoga and Pilates that you're doing at home.
The Zoom yoga classes I've been doing. Finally.
All right, folks. We'll leave it there for this episode. Thank you as ever for listening. Enjoy all the other Arsenal podcasts that there are out there for you to listen to as well.
They're breeding.
They're like zombies. They're lumbering towards you, all these Arsenal podcasts. They're coming to eat your brains. We'll have more during the week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting, subscribing, and all the rest. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.